Live before lock here. You've got Jake Hari. You got your old pal Emac closing a bunch of windows here. Probably should have restarted my computer because I can hear that fan chugging along, and I haven't even started crunching yet. Jake, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Just got done with the old hockey show a little while ago. So dual sport night, playoff hockey, pretty good baseball slate, I think. So hopefully we can make some money doing one or both or all three, I guess, for you because you're playing all the sports tonight.
Oh, I'm doing all of them, and now I'm mucking around with our framing here, and anyway, we'll get going here. I look like I'm sitting in a lowrider for some reason that I should get the gangsta lean elbow out the window. Oh yes, because when you think gangster, you think me. Because
Of
that's
course,
just how
yeah.
it works.
How can you not?
But yeah, we've got a nice robust slate here. I'm gonna open up some of the windows, but just quickly while we're hitting it, shout out to Osmo.com for doing NHL playoff content. I noticed one of our big orange and blue competitors doesn't even have the tab anymore for NHL playoffs. Says nothing scheduled. There are 5 games tonight. We have projections behind the paywall from Jake. We have line rankings, line rankings or stacks, as you know them, from Osmo himself. That from it right out of the Alex Baker model. He does each player's individual rankings, goalies, centers, and forwards and defensemen, both for production and for value on the 2 big sites. So this is exciting stuff, Jake. I actually have 88 lineups tonight in hockey. What? Somehow I kept entering, and then I'm like, gosh, Josh wants me to do a show tonight. This is probably not the most savvy play I've done, but there we are. So in any event here, let's see. We'll make sure people can see us here. Let me get down here in chat. There we go. So game theory. There is NBA. It's going to be with Josh Engelman and Fast Eddie Fear. Lock is at 8 o'clock tonight. So there are, oh goodness, about 8 games or so going at 8, and then another 3 or 4 I think are at 10 or 10:30 tonight. It's the last day. You're seeing massive amounts of players being ruled out. We've already seen 3 or 4 ruled out, ruled back in, and now questionable, Jake, because that's fun. But there we are. But let's hit on the old baseball here. Let's see, what do I want to look at first here? Let's go game by game. We'll just hit stuff. There's one spot with weather. Before I forget, that is in Chicago. I think it should, let me see. I think it should play fine. It was delayed earlier today, but I believe it's still cold, and there's a hefty wind coming in from the outfield there in Wrigley. So you'll want to keep an eye on that, and we'll talk about that further when we get to that game. But it looks like the last remnants of the latest rain showers in the area will be dying down over the next 45 minutes or so. So that should be okay. All right, so let me get to my other page here, and Jake and I are going to take turns crunching our lineups because we were being foolish today and got a little carried away, but that's all right. So here we go. First game I want us to look at here. Good God, I got to get my filter set up. Now I got to get this. Oakland and Baltimore is going to be the first one here. You have Dan Straley taking the bump for Baltimore. I didn't realize he was with an Oriole. When did that happen? And then you got Frankie Montas on the other side. Now, the one issue you have with Montas, not a lot of strikeouts. Walks a lot. We're looking at about a 500 at-bat sample size. He's got a combined 18% strikeout rate and just shy of double digits for walks. But these are the Orioles, so they're not that terrifying. It looks like on DK, VR, and Mancini are spendy, and then you've got the other guys not so much. Oh, by the way, have you seen Chris Davis, Baltimore Oriole Chris Davis, on the salaries today? I'm guessing not.
Where's he at?
He's not in the lineup tonight, but he is $1 on Yahoo.
What?
Their minimum is $7.
Okay.
Someone told me he was $2,000 on DraftKings. And then I don't know what he is on FanDuel, but they led the charge the other day and had him like $500. So
what do you think of that?
I'm fine with it. I don't care. It's a weird situation. Nobody has ever gone. I mean, he set some record for futility, like what, 52 or 51, whatever it is, at bats without a hit. That's kind of hard to do. We do know. Why can't I find him? We do, yeah. So he's 500 on FanDuel. So normally I don't mind when they're doing this with the marginalized players like this. If they were to do it with the important players, that's where I kind of have a problem. So like last night they did. Wade was like $5,333 because his number's 3. It was his last game in Miami, etc. They did something similar with Dirk. Well, that's fine. The difference between on the sites 5,400 and 5,333, there is no difference. So I don't care if they do that. That's fun. Fine, go for it. But I do remember this is well before you were playing. And then we'll get the slate. But well before you were playing DFS, DraftKings did a promotion with StubHub, intentionally mispriced Jimmy Butler when he was with Chicago. I don't know. He probably should. I don't remember the particulars. He should have been like a $9,000 player, and he was a $6,000 player or something like that. So he was like 30% underpriced. And then they used that as a tweet. Hey, check out something about Jimmy Butler at a low price, and go look at StubHub. Or so, there was something to do with that. Oh, the outrage in the DFS community was strong that day. Don't do it with an important player.
Right.
That's a no-no.
Well, that's weird because if there's one thing I know, the DFS community, very reasonable, very level-headed. No one ever really gets too angry at stuff. So that's quite the surprise. Did you say that?
Yeah. So in any event here, but back to this one, I do like the Oakland hitters. Of course, you're going against Straley here. Straley pitched a couple days ago. I think he threw about 40 pitches. So I don't expect to see him go much more than 50 or so. Baltimore is kind of doing the bullpen thing, except it's not even really openers. And even then they're doing it wrong, because last night they started out with, what's his name? John Means, their lefty. And he was going right into the heart of the Oakland vaunted righty lineup. So it's like, it would have been better to start off with the righty. And then they let him go 3 innings, and then they just brought in some other guys. But their bullpen is horrible. So that's why I have some strong consideration here for Oakland, starting with Chris with a K Davis, the real Chris Davis. And then you have Chapman. Semien had a nice little home run last night. He has a intermittent pop. It shows up when you least expect it, but by the end of the year, he's got in the teens for home runs. And then Kendrys Morales is kind of interesting. Their switch hitter just joined Oakland for this season. So I think those guys are fine. Do you like anything from this game?
Yeah, I thought I was gonna get more of Oakland here. I don't know how I feel about the bullpen game, even when it's a bad bullpen. Like, I just think in general, if you're seeing different pitchers every couple innings, that's probably less of an advantage rather than just going up against a bad pitcher for 5 innings. So I don't know, maybe that can throw a wrench into things. Last night it didn't work. I think I said kind of the exact same thing. And it's a huge total for Oakland. I think Morales, I like that you mentioned him. He's probably my favorite one on DK, just a very obvious value against a guy like Straley who has home run problems. So I don't think Oakland's going to have a ton of trouble scoring runs here. I'm trying to pull up their just like team ownership. I think it's pretty high. Yeah, it's actually the highest on the slate. So from that respect, I think I'm going to be underweight on Oakland. But yeah, it's obviously a pretty decent spot just as far as them scoring 5 to 6 runs here, you'd think.
All right. And the team ownership, that's kind of a fun thing. We've got a new feature that we're debuting for free. It's beta testing here, but it's put together by Osmo himself, Alex Baker, and it goes over the top stack percentages. So it is the projected percentages here for the top stacks, what their ownership is going to be, and then proportionally where they come in based on their value. Now, these couple things here are a little bit tricky to read, but the important one that I like to look at is thus far, I've been using them for 2 days now, Jake. I think they've been live for 3, but I like to see where the stacks are going. And Oakland is coming in as the most popular stack tonight, but it's at 15%. So that's one of the things that I think a lot of times people forget is they hear, oh, it's a chalk stack, or oh, it's this, oh, it's that. Your stack really, how I look at it, and I know you've talked about this for hockey, but your stack's really as owned as the lowest player on the stack. Now for baseball, Hockey's easy. You got 3 on the line. Okay. Baseball will shoot. We have 8 or 9 batters, depending if it's the AL or AL or NL. And for me, I usually look at whatever the 3rd or 4th most highest owned player is, and I say, oh, that's about where the stacks may end up. But I like this because it's putting in a lot more thought and giving more reasonable numbers here, taking into context where the whole field is going to be on this. So I suspect we'll get a little bit of a tutorial there and some further explanations on that, but that's something I think is very, very helpful on that. Let's head on to our next game here. We have the Washington Nationals going against the Philadelphia Phillies. We have Nick Pivetta, who's just been getting smoked by lefties this season. Now, the last 2 seasons, in just about 600 plate appearances against lefties, he was doing okay. I mean, he had 146 isolated power, and he had a 325 WOBA, and his numbers actually were way worse against righties, against same-handed pitchers. But if we look at this season's numbers, let me change that filter. This is just 30 at-bats. He's had, 1, maybe 2 starts, but a 533 WOBA, a 400 ISO, that's pretty bad. Just a 6% K rate. So just food for thought there, because you do have, we don't have Harper. Well, we have Harper in this game, just not on the Nationals anymore. But hello, Matt Adams. Where have you been, Sailor? I've missed you. And then you've got Juan Soto. And then you've got, Adam Eaton is from the left side of the plate, but he does not have any pop at all. And then Victor Robles at the bottom of the lineup has decent power, or he's displaying decent power against righties. Plus, he will steal, and I kind of like him at the bottom of the lineup here, going against Pivetta. On the other side, we have Jeremy Hellickson. So in the article that I put up there, the Spotlight Hitters and Stacks article, I do the one early stack and one late stack. And what I've been doing there is just kind of explaining different ways to approach the game. These may or may not be the best stacks, but quote best stacks, because I don't always pick the highest implied run total or whatever. But I'll put in players, and then I usually try to have a description and say, hey, here's why we're leveraging against these, or this is a popular pitcher, but I think we should do X. Today, it's Jeremy Hellickson. No explanation is really needed there. So I think we need to start there with Bryce Harper, and then you've got Rhys Hoskins, his partner in crime. They both just absolutely beast against right-handed pitching. One from the left side of the plate, the other from the right side of the plate. But that's where I want to start my Phillies stacks. Talk to me here about the Phillies first, and then we'll walk you back over there to the Nationals.
Yeah, I mean, I think another pretty good spot. I mean, it's hard to argue. Again, you got an implied total of 5 or over 5. Hellickson, obviously not a good pitcher here. I'm trying to look at the Nats bullpen so far just to see how they've been. Looks like they've struggled quite a bit. 180 whip. Obviously, that doesn't stabilize this quick. But still, they've been pretty rough. And I don't know how Hellickson's going to stay in this game. Like you mentioned, Harper. Of course, he's going to have a tough time with Odubel Herrera is one of my other favorites here. And then you've obviously got Hoskins and Real Muto, Segura, McCutcheon. All these guys can hit righties too. So balls are going to be put in play. I think there's almost no doubt about that. And it's coming off the bat of a lot of really, really good hitters.
All right. And then on the other side, looking at the Nationals, they've kind of been winning in ugly manners, but they've been putting some runs together, which is nice to see. Again, just reiterating Soto, Adams, and then Anthony Rendon, who is just, I keep saying he's fringe MVP talk. He might be in the MVP conversation right now in the non-Mike Trout division.
Yeah, he's a stud. I don't have a problem with you saying that at all. I love Rendon. I love playing in DFS. I love watching it.
All right. Jay can't see me, but those of you that can, I'm having my allergy medicine's wearing off here, so all of a sudden my eyes are watering. I'm putting eye drops in. I'm starting to cough. I have had a piece of gum here I'm chewing on, and that's not really helping me. But so my apologies. Jake will probably still hear me cough. I will hit the cough button when that happens again here, so you guys do not have to listen to me, but we'll continue along through our slate. The next one here, your team. We have the Minnesota Twins in New York. Today they're going against Thor, Noah Syndergaard. Yesterday they had, why am I blanking on his name? DeGrom, who was not so DeGroovy. Mitch Garver suddenly had some home runs. Was that yesterday?
That was yesterday.
Yes,
Yeah.
2 home runs. Well, hello, Mitch. What's going on here? On the season, he has, 4 hits. So congratulations on doubling your hit total thus far there, Mitch. He is in the lineup today. I guess they're going to ride the hot hand. What do you like here from the Fighting Jakes?
I mean, for hitters, I don't know. Adam and Lofty were talking about them just being kind of a tough top 4 from a strikeout perspective, and then just pretty solid hitters. Rosario and Polanco and Kepler all hit righties well, and then Astudillo just never strikes out, like literally never strikes out. So even against Syndergaard, he's going to be swinging. I don't know that it's a massive upside spot for Syndergaard, and it looks like he's going to be super, super chalky. So yeah, I don't have a problem taking a couple Twins bats. Rosario and Polanco would probably be my favorites, but I'm not crazy about Syndergaard at this ownership, I will say. What about you?
No, I'm actually not getting to him as much now. We just got an ownership projection here. He's coming in at number 1 on DK at 35%. I'm putting this into Cruncher so I can start getting my stuff. I will probably, for starters, look to match the field. I usually run my first couple on cap just to see where it's coming out, but I've been working more on spreading things out a little bit and then just taking stands where I really want to. So last night, one of my bigger stands was I'm blanking on the lefty for San Francisco yesterday against the Padres.
Derek Holland.
Derek Holland. Thank you. I had Derek Rodriguez in my mind, and that was confusing me because they're entirely different pitchers, even though they are both on the same team. But I went well over on him, and I went pretty high on DeGrom. The DeGrom one didn't work out, but fortunately I had things diffused enough where I got some good leverage on some of the guys. I'm probably going to do that tonight. Syndergaard, similar to DeGrom, I'm not really going to go heavy against him, but I will make sure that I do have some probably 5% Minnesota stacks, just because at this level of ownership, that starts to get to the point where you want to just have something if things go sideways, if you're doing the mass multi-entry, which I know a lot of us are doing now, because baseball, much like golf, very, very variant.
Yeah, I mean, the odds they light up DeGrom and then Syndergaard in back-to-back nights is pretty steep, but they're not getting ownership at all. So, I mean, even 5%, I don't even know if you need that much, honestly. Like, you could go with like 3% if they're hitting your caps and just call it good there. That's 5 out of 150. And you're going to be well over the field if they do indeed continue their hot hitting from last night.
And this is one of the things that I'm really getting into, because last year I started the mass multi-entry. I love to muck around in the the quarter, and last year they had some 50-cent contests for baseball. I think it's $1 now. So as I'm refining stuff, I'll join you guys in that contest, the mini max, later. But I'm still learning what it means to leverage or over leverage, and that's where I still get a little bit, I don't say confused, but maybe I go too aggressive on one side or the other, where, I know you and Josh like to talk about being over the field. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to triple or quadruple it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's fine. 50% more, if the field's 20% on someone and you go 30, that'll get you the lineups you need to be different. So
right, as long as you're being unique with your stacks. If you have 5 stacks and a team is, so if you have 5 stacks at a 150, you have 3%. And a team is 1% owned as a stack, like you're triple the field there without overexposing yourself to a stack that's not going to be heavily owned. Whereas if a stack is going to be, let's say you really love, who's the top stack? Seattle, or is it?
It is Oakland.
So in Alex's top stack numbers, usually there's an article to go along with it. At least there was last year. He's obviously busy with a bunch of other sports, Masters and NBA and stuff. But if you are really heavy on, let's say, Oakland or Seattle.
Oh, Seattle's number 2. You're right. 15 and 14% on DK here.
Yeah. So let's say just call it both 15, and you really want to take a stand on one of them. I would say maybe then that's when you're going, maybe 25 or even 30% on a stack if you really want to gain, if you think they're going to be under-owned. So for me, I don't think they're going to be under-owned. So I'm probably going to end up under on at least one of those, probably both, because baseball is just such a variance-based sport. But like you look at some of these stacks down low, like KC, and you look at like I'll be over on that, like 4%. There's some other ones. Philadelphia, I'm probably going to be over on them, even though they're pretty highly owned, it looks like. So yeah, just being over the field, but also being smart with how much over the field you are. I think that's what makes Alex and Tom and, a bunch of other guys that are site ship my money at them. Just such
1-800 Eddie, who is very sneaky and lives under the radar and just crushes.
He is. I mean, he crushed NHL for like the first 2 months. I was just like, man, this guy is so damn good. So we've got a bunch of guys like that at our site, obviously, but Alex, I think, is just the best at playing the ownership game and being contrarian while also making really smart lineups.
All right. Wrapping this game back up, since we went down a bit of a rabbit hole there, looking to the New York side of things here against Odorizzi. Odorizzi sort of changed up his pitch mix, so he's not quite the splits neutral guy and I say neutral because he was almost reverse splits, and there's of course major arguments about is somebody reverse splits or not, and that means, so for those of you that are new, if you're reverse splits, it means you do worse against the same handedness of the hitter. So if you're a righty, you perform worse against righties, where in general lefties have the advantage against righties and vice versa from a hitting perspective here. But he is someone that I think we can pick on a little bit. This is a much different Mets lineup. I mean, they're going 5 deep here with Alonso, their rookie up here, and Nimmo, and they've got Robbie Cano now, and they've got Conforto. Wilson Ramos is phenomenal as long as he stays healthy. But for tonight, I am liking the top 5 here. How are you approaching going against your favorite team?
Yeah, I mean, I like going up against Odorizzi. Wasn't the thing with Odorizzi, I can't remember if it was a 2-seamer or a changeup. He was throwing to righties all the time.
I believe it was the changeup. Adam is always way better at
I can't remember. I'm a little rusty still with NHL going on, diving deep into that. And I haven't looked into a ton of like pitch type data. But yeah, that was the thing with Odorizzi. He was throwing a pitch you shouldn't throw to righties as a righty. And so he would get clubbed all the time. But it would make sense that he would be better against lefties with a good changeup. So anyways, back to your question. Yeah, I do like Conforto, Cano, and Nimmo especially. And then Pete Alonso, I guess he's just going to hit a home run every single night, it seems like. Yeah, I still don't think Odorizzi is like perfect by any means against righties. So I've got no problem stacking up the top of the order. Cutter.
Alonso will be interesting, of course, until the book gets out on him. And then he'll have to adjust, and then pitchers will adjust to his adjustments. And welcome to the MLB world.
Yeah.
Rookie. So there you go. But yeah, he is kind of interesting on that one. Let's continue along here. Just keeping an eye on the time. We got what time is locked tonight? Is it 7:05 or 7?
It is 7:05.
7:05. Okay, just wanted to make sure. For those of you that are playing the midday games, don't forget that Miami and Cincinnati is going to lock here in 13 minutes. So if you have not updated your all-day lineups, be sure to do that. On to our next game here. We have the New York Yankees going in to Houston, taking on the Astros. You have James Paxton, former Mariner, who is taking the bump there for the Yankees. And then on the other side, we have Colin McHugh. Now, this is an interesting spot for McHugh. Over the last 2 seasons, he has a combined 28% strikeout rate across 560, 570 batters here, relatively split between lefties and righties. So against lefties, he has 23% strikeout rate. Against righties, 32%. Looking at the Yankees here, they've got a whole host of righties in the lineup tonight. Greg Bird has some power. Gardner, well, he's kind of like gets that random home run or big game every now and then. But I like Colin McHugh here from a swerve perspective, shall we say. What are your thoughts on McHugh? And let's see. Oh goodness, 22%. So that's not bad. The pitching's relatively diffused here on DK. So he's the 4th most popular, but at 22%, that's not that big of a deal. I'm looking for 30 or 35% on him.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I'm probably going to be closer to where he's at. I think you're going to have a lot of these spots against the Yankees, and especially once Stanton comes back. He's a big strikeout guy, but obviously super dangerous. Ton of righties in this lineup. So just like the true definition of a boomer bust spot here for McHugh. If he's got his best stuff, he could easily mow down this Yankees team. And I think he's maybe a little bit underpriced, but it looks like his ownership has kind of reflected that. So not really taking a big stand on McHugh. But I think if you are MMEing, and this should be pretty obvious, but if you're playing a bunch of McHugh, you probably should be on the Yankees as well in case it does go south pretty quick.
And that is very fair. On the other side here with Paxton, we sort of have a similar argument here. You've got he is when healthy has been phenomenal. People kind of forget. I think he's 30. I think this is his age 30 season or age 31 maybe. So he's a little older than. Oh, go ahead.
He's sneaky old. I didn't realize that until you just said that now.
Yeah, and it's because he's missed chunks of so many different seasons, and then I don't think he really popped up there in the bigs. I'm just calling up his player card. I don't think he popped up as he spent time in the minors more than one is expecting here. Oh, his nickname is the Big Maple. He is from Canada. He is 30 and a half right now. Wow. And he made his debut in 2013. So this is his 7th season. However, 4 starts, 13, 13, 20, 24, 28 last year was his high, and then 2 thus far this year. So 104 career starts across those 7 seasons. So he has been a well-kept secret, I guess, that people are obviously aware of now that he's on the Yankees, and the DFS world is usually ahead of the curve. But he is a little bit older, so just something to think about, particularly as we get into the season more and it's hot in New York, etc. This is a guy that he has an odd delivery. I can never quite describe it, but as far as lefties goes, it seems to lend itself to rib, elbow, and hip issues because of the way he throws. So that's just, as a Mariners fan, I've watched a lot of his starts, but that to me, it just seems different. Like there are certain pitchers you watch and you're like, that guy doesn't seem to throw like the rest of the pitchers. Yeah. You know, is that a good thing, like Hideo Nomo, or is it not a good thing? From that standpoint. But how are you liking the Astros here? A little bit of leverage, perhaps. Springer, Altuve, phenomenal against lefties. You've got some nice pop there with Tyler White. What do you want to do here with the Astros?
Yeah, I mean, they're coming in at ownership. I think I'm comfortable playing them at. I don't really love the spot for Paxton. He's obviously a big strikeout guy. And, you know, if he was like 2 or 3% owned or, you know, something ridiculous like that, I'd probably take a couple shots on him here. But I just don't really see how he hurts me for almost 10K. Like, do you see him? I don't know. I mean, Adam and Lofty were talking about, like, he's good enough to strike out a bunch of guys here, even though it may not be the best strikeout matchup, but I don't know how often that happens. And I don't know if it's above 10%, which is what we have him projected for ownership. And I think that's what he's going to need to do to be kind of the nut pitcher you need.
All right. And that's one of the things that, you know, we're being reminded rapidly here as we've seen Strasburg get knocked around. We've seen last night it was Syndergaard. It's just a reminder that things can go very poorly for any pitcher out there. Now, the really good ones, that's only going to happen, you know, half a dozen times a year to them. So I would put Paxton in that category. So it makes it a little bit tougher, but, you know, any given day, interesting stuff can happen. So I don't mind it. We'll have to see where I come in here as I'm just about to hit the crunch button, and we'll see what happens. Let's continue on here.
We should do dong picks quick before we forget again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll let's get through the games first, and then we'll do that. We got 5 more here. So, Kenta Maeda, nice matchup for him going against a very righty-heavy St. Louis Cardinals lineup. Shout out Matt Carpenter, just got a 2-year extension today, so good on him. But he and Colton Wong are the only lefties in this lineup. We know that Maeda is excellent against righties. Over his last 590 faced, he has a 270 WOBA, a 150 ISO, and he's striking out 34% of them. I do like Kenta Maeda here. I respect that Cardinals lineup, but Maeda has definitely got the strikeout upside, and strikeouts are king. We have, let's see, Bader, Goldschmidt, DeJong. Let's throw Ozuna and Carpenter in there as well. Those guys all strike out 20+% of the time, but that just barely over 20%. So not a lot of free Ks here, but enough righties that I think we'll see, 6-8 strikeouts from Maeda. We hope he makes it past the 5th or 6th inning and does not get pinch hit for by Reston Dave Roberts.
Yeah, I think just based on the lineup that St. Louis is rolling out there, and just seeing that he's thrown, 106 and 91 pitches So the 91's a little bit concerning after 5 innings. That's kind of borderline. But early in the season, Dave Roberts, of course, is going to he's going to take the cautious side of that and probably not bring him out for the extra inning. So you need to get a little bit lucky with his pitch count here. But yeah, I think you're right about the strikeouts being here. He's really, really awesome against righties. I mean, if you just look at his K percentage, some other metrics that I care about as far as like hard hit percentage, WOBA is way down. A whip of 1.01 since the start of 2018. So yeah, I don't see anything wrong with Maeda. You could argue he's a little bit overpriced, but there's not a ton that I love at pitcher today. So I might actually increase my ownership now. I'm kind of talking myself into him as I go.
Right, and let's see here. Thankfully we have 2 of us doing the show because I'm still remembering how to redo. I had basketball down to where I was just kind of pushing a button and it was doing everything I needed. For baseball, I'm like, oh, I need to do this. How do I do that? This isn't coming out how I want. I need to put my thumb on the scale there. Oh crap, that had unintended consequences, etc. So glad there are 2 of us on here today. On the other side, you have Mr. Flaherty, who is a bit of an enigma. He has been solid against both righties and lefties over nearly equal plate appearances, just over 360 apiece. And he's been good. About a 300 combined WOBA and about a 150 combined ISO and about a 26% combined K rate. However, these are the Dodgers. The Dodgers are healthy. The Dodgers are incredibly dangerous. And they got a lot of lefties in the lineup tonight who all hit for power. Lest we forget, Corey Seager missed most of last year with his injury, but I think he has, I want to say 4 career 3 home run games.
Seager does?
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
For a guy who's only been around a couple years here. And, he's better than his brother, right, Kyle?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you? Here's a fun divergent topic, but then I'll turn you loose on this one. Kyle, they had that player nickname, jersey names. He wore Corey's brother as his name on the back of his jersey.
That's funny. Yeah.
He's the older brother, and he's doing that. He's like, yeah, my brother's better than me. That's fine. I've been in the big 7 years longer than him, but yeah, he's better. But talk to me here about the Dodgers. They're always a fun stack. I think just because they seemingly are all good. There are not many holes in this lineup.
Yeah. So, I mean, I always look at the pitcher first and kind of what I think of the pitcher. I've got Flaherty as being really good, but I've got the matchup being even worse. And it's 9K. He's a little bit worse against lefties. He struggles a little more with walks and hard contact. I believe his xFIP is also higher, but yeah, just a really, really tough spot. Like, Pellinger, Muncy, you mentioned Seager, Jock leading off. I don't know. The Dodgers actually did a really good job of stacking the top of this lineup with lefties. So I think it's just tough enough from a strikeout perspective and just a blow up spot where I'm okay taking some Dodgers stacks and I'm not really getting to a ton of clarity.
All right, I'm pushed the crunch. I'm just going to run 100 for now, so I can kind of play around with this, but I want to see where everybody's landing. So running uncapped here, Jake, I'm getting 67% Syndergaard, 44% Ray, 58% Yu Darvish. Those guys, I'm going to tamp all of them down, but I always like to run it uncapped just to see what my projections are doing, and since I'm utilizing the projections here from Osimo. Shout out to Alex and Tom who are sharing the good stuff, their models for this one. I'm okay with that, but as we like to play a lot of lineups here, and we put in the say variance volatility. What do they call it over here on Cruncher? The randomness. Thank you. The randomness. I usually run 15 or 20% for baseball just because I want to have things spread out, but I generally cap my ownership a little tighter, and I will be doing that right now as we go through this. So it's kind of fun just to see where things come out uncapped, because sometimes you'll see guys that you aren't expecting. Like I would have thought Colin McHugh would be a little more popular in mine, and I'm coming in at half the field. So I'm going to tweak that, etc. The other thing you always want to be careful on when you're doing baseball is you can end up with what you think are stacks, but it's not the hitters you really want in said stacks. And you can end up with some 6-7 hitters in there, which aren't bad. But when that's the crux of your stack, and you're thinking, yeah, I've got a ton of Oakland, and it's mostly Marcus Semien and Nick Hundley and Robbie Grossman, that can be a problem. So you want to always keep an eye on that. And generally, once you start curbing some of the enthusiasm from the model on these more expensive pitchers. You'll start to get the more expensive batters coming into your required stacks here. Anyway, just I know we have a lot of new people, so I as we have a few moments here, and we didn't get the MLB strategy show today, it'll be back in full force tomorrow and going forward. But I just want to throw that one out there. Anything else from either side of this game? We got 4 more to go.
No, not really. I think we're good here. One question, quick in chat on Cruncher. Do you limit your exposures to each or group? I'm confused as to what this does to my lineups. He means.
Yes. So I do it by player. In basketball, I still do it by player, but I'll use groups. I don't use groups for baseball. I use stacks. So if you go up to the advanced option tab and you click the third one in team stacks, that's what I utilize for hockey and for baseball. When I'm doing NBA or NFL, then I utilize the groups feature. And the one thing you want to know about groups for NFL, that you can click on a specific player and make them a key player, meaning if they're in your crunch, it will take however many you're saying from this group of players with that guy. So for basketball, it's kind of fun because you can say, hey, I want this star, but if I'm going to take him and he's playing a semi-crappy team, I want 2 guys coming over from that team. So like you would say, oh, I want Booker and Ayton if I've got James Harden going against Phoenix, because if I'm putting Harden in my lineup, I want those other guys, because if he's going to have an 80-point game, for the game to stay close, who's going to keep it close from Phoenix? So that's how you can utilize that. I throw all that out the window when it comes to baseball, and I just worry about the stacks and number of players. So I'll run 5-man, 4-man, and 3-man stacks. Right now, I'm just running 4 fours. I'm saving 50 lineups, so I'll run 4 3 stacks on from that standpoint. But always a good question there. So we've got Darvish, who has disappointed greatly thus far this season. I had convinced myself that he was healthy, he had a full season off, the playoff meltdown was back in the rearview mirror so far he could hardly see it. Through 36 batters, he's got a 7.3 xFIP. That's not good, Jake. That's not good. He's also walking a third of the hitters so far. That's also a big problem here. So I don't really want Darvish tonight. We are looking at it's going to be cold in Chicago, and I mentioned there was like about a 15-mile-an-hour wind coming in from the outfield. So you would think it would be better for pitchers, but I don't really want to trust Darvish. So he's someone I will probably have about 15% of across my lineups, and that's not much when you think about having 2 pitchers on DraftKings. What are you looking at for your percentage on Darvish tonight?
Yeah, I also use the ones on the site. At least I aggregate them with a little model that I've come up with. So I am getting a decent amount of Darvish. I don't like the idea of doing it, especially if he's going to be chalky. Like if he's going to be 30% in any tournament, it seems like kind of a losing proposition to play him that much. So I'm going to try to get a little lower on him than the field, at least at 30. But if we think he is Darvish of even close to being old, like even if he was 90% of that or 85%, you'd probably play him in Wrigley, wind blowing way in. Like maybe the strikeouts aren't going to be there, but if they can play this whole game clean, then you're not really worried about him getting killed with power. 40 degrees and 20-mile-per-hour winds blowing in is kind of ridiculous for a $7,400 pitcher. And maybe there is some strikeout upside. I guess we haven't really seen it yet or lately, but it does make sense. I just hate the ownership that we're getting for it.
And if it was less, maybe this is when he puts it all together. Maybe he just had 2 bad starts and he's going to be in a groove. Now we don't know that for sure. I haven't seen anything talking about any injuries or anything like that, but it could be just tremendous bad luck. But I'm not entirely sure. On the other side here, we have Jordan Lyles, and to see. My ESPN. Jordan Lyles. I wanted to see what his pitch count has been thus far. So he went 80 in his first game. He pitched just a week ago on April 4th against Cincinnati. Ended up with 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. But the key thing for me was 80 pitches. I am interested in him just a little bit this evening, only because when we just got the Milwaukee line. Looking for it, but I just want to see here. He's so low projected. His price is 7,000 on FanDuel, 68 on DK. So that puts him firmly in play, I think, as an SP2. And I don't think there's going to be a ton of people on him. So that's someone that I want to do that's someone that I want to have tonight, which I have a little trepidation for. The weather's playing a little bit into the favor for him. If you look at any 2-year, 1-year metrics against these Cubs, you're seeing a lot of green. They got a lot of good hitters here. How are you feeling about Jordan Lyles?
I mean, he's pitching in the same weather, and he's going to be let's see what he's at. Last update, he was under 5%. Like, I'll take an under 7K pitcher. You've got some guys maybe you want to pay up for, or pay up-ish, Robbie Ray and Syndergaard. So if you like those guys, taking the pitcher on the other side, I mean, that just seems like such brutal weather to hit in. Like, I don't know. He doesn't, like, he could go pretty deep, even though there are a bunch of good hitters. I don't know a ton about his stuff, just to be fully transparent. But
yeah, he's kicked around. I mean, he was with, let's say, the Padres. I think he was with the Colorado for a little bit. Did some work out of the bullpen. Was kind of in a long relief, just kind of mucking about. But Pittsburgh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry, Pittsburgh. When you look at the players and they have a different hat on from a different team in their player profile, you're like, wait, what? Who is this guy? Pittsburgh is one of the places that they've been able to turn around some of these 4 and 5 starters and make them very serviceable, which is something that's intriguing to see. So I want to see what they're going to do with him. And they're not quite the same as what Houston's been able to do with working their magic, but I'm going to give him a shot here. And I know this is a tough matchup, but the price point here is enabling me to get a healthy amount here of the Oakland stacks of the good players, like Davis, Semien, Chapman, Morales. I'm getting a ton of those guys right now. So that's something that having more Jordan Lyles is allowing me to do. So that's kind of a path I am taking today. I don't feel confident about this, but if he can get me 12 points, DK scoring, I'll be solid with it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he easily could. I think he's got 15, 18 point upside here in this weather. So yeah, I don't think that's actually bad at all. I should be getting more exposure to him now that I'm thinking about it.
Yes. Now, on the other side, hell yeah, play some Cubs. Absolutely. They're the Cubs. But this is a night where I don't think I'm going to go crazy. So I've been branching out on my stacks. So I've been running teams that I'm like, on. Like, I would put 10% because I'm running 4-4 stacks. So I'm really getting twice as many stacks as my percentage is showing me. So 10% isn't really that, I don't think it's an egregious amount. But what do you do in these situations where it's you can see this going either way?
Yeah.
What do you do in those types? Do you go like 10 or 15% for your caps?
Oh,
What do you do?
I even go less. Like, I've got them capped around 8% right now.
Okay.
So once I delete, those lines, that's probably going to come down. It's probably going to be closer to like 5 where you're at. But once I filter out the best lineups or whatever, they just don't project out that well. And a lot of it has to do with the weather.
Right.
You're not getting coverage on them too, which is obviously huge.
Anything else from this game?
I don't think so. No, I think I'm good there.
All right. We got 3 to go here. You got Seattle and Kansas City. Who knew the Mariners were just going to all have their hot streak at once? They are averaging, I think it's 7.5 runs a game now, and show no signs of slowing down, which is just phenomenal. I mean, hey, Jay Bruce all of a sudden decided he was going to hit home runs. He's amongst the league leaders. You've got Edwin Encarnación, had 2 home runs in the same inning the other night. You've got Dan Vogelbach, who's about as wide as he is tall, but he has massive power. He's got, on the season right now, yes, it's 24 at-bats against righties, but he has an 840 isolated power and a 760 WOBA with a 20% walk rate. Wow, that's pretty good. 2/3 of his hits are fly balls. So
I just love the way it looks too.
Yeah, those will start to normalize, but Phil is not somebody that should be scaring us at all. In this matchup, over his last 300 batters faced, he's got a 4.7 xFIP, striking out just 16.5% of the people, and just a tick shy of double-digit walks at 9.3%. So things are not lining up well for him. At some point, the music's going to stop for the Mariners, but let's hope they keep dancing tonight. Do you like Bruce Encarnación, Vogelbach? Would you extend that to Haniger, who's
Oh, yeah.
he's been out of the lineup a couple times, which kind of surprised me, but I guess I don't hate him. So for me, it's looking 2 through 4. Or 2 through 5? What are your thoughts here on that?
Yeah, I love the entire lineup, honestly. So you talk about the weather in the Cubs game. It's 80 degrees in KC. So I'm all over this from a just good hitting weather perspective. It's shown in the Vegas implied totals. You see a 10 total for this game, and 5.5 of that going to Seattle. So yeah, I mean, I love Haniger as a hitter. 4,300 for him, 4,300 for Bruce, dual position eligibility there. You can play Vogelbach or Encarnacion, so that might be the one tough decision. But neither of them are going to be super chalky. And then I like Narvaez a ton. And then you get the terrible KC bullpen after Phil. So they're just it's a lot of balls in play.
Yeah, that's one of the important things to remember is if you got a good bullpen and your starter gets pulled, that's when you're not as excited as you were as compared to when you've got, we knocked around that guy and we got a bunch more gas cans coming in. So definitely something to look there. For the Mariners, you've got Kikuchi here, who is making his major league debut season. I think this is his 4th start, I think. He started in the Japan series. He came over from the Japanese league. So not a long book out on him. The Mariners have also said they're going to be cognizant of what they're doing with his pitch counts and such. And they've mentioned that there's going to be some times where they're going to be starting him, but only having him go 2 or 3 innings, just to keep an eye on the overarching workload. I don't think we're going to have to worry about that tonight, but that's something that where if he starts to struggle a little bit, I could see a quick hook for him, because it's not like they need him to learn how to pitch since he's been in pitching professionally for a while now. But on the Mariners side, I'm surprised, or pardon me, the KC side, I'm surprised to see Billy Hamilton batting second. So now you've got just 3 speed demons here with Merrifield, Hamilton, and Mondesi, which is kind of intriguing because Hamilton has been batting 9th the majority of the season, and we know he's not the best at getting on base. Too bad he can't steal first, but that seems like a unique lineup to put all those guys up at the top, which just I don't know. I'm a little surprised. So maybe they think they can run on him.
That's the thing. They have to think they can run on him. There's no reason to bat Billy Hamilton second. I mean, unless you think that you can just get on base and run a ton. So they're going to be attempting. And then this guy, Gore, he played for the Cubs a couple of years ago. He's an awful, awful hitter, but he can run. And so, yeah, they have to think that they can just run all over this guy. Or, I don't know, is it Narvaez? He's not that bad at throwing out runners. Like, not that bad where you need to stack your whole lineup, is he?
I don't know if it'll take too long to look it up. You normally have all my links set up to see how many stolen bases and stuff catchers have given up over the last 2 seasons, just to kind of get an indication of what's going on. But I can't get to that quickly right now. But
either way, I mean, the point still stands. They're going to be trying to run. There's no other reason to have this lineup.
On that one. All right, we've got, what do we got? Sheesh, 12 minutes left, 2 more games. Texas, Arizona. Roof is open in Arizona. That means no worries about the humidor, but you do have one Robbie Ray who does have electric strikeout stuff. His last 1,100 batters faced, make that 1,200. He has a 32% combined strikeout rate. That is 38% against lefties, 30% against righties. I do like that. On occasion, he has walk issues, because over that same stretch of time, he's got 12% walk rate. We don't like to see that. Touch higher than we'd like to see on the fly balls, touch lower on the ground balls. But he does get to face the pitcher tonight, which is going to weaken somewhat that Texas lineup. And I'm just looking, good God, Hunter Pence batting cleanup. My apologies. Who's out? Mazzara's not in tonight. They don't have Profar anymore.
Stacked it up with righties.
Yeah, they're going heavy on the righties here. I'm still good with it because DeShields, no power. Forsythe, had a lost season there with the Dodgers, but he's always been good against lefties, especially when he was with Tampa Bay. But I don't know that I'm going to fear him at the moment. Andrus, completely adequate, but not for shortstop. He has okay power, but what is he at 20, 25 home runs a year? And then Pence. I'm still okay with Robbie Ray here. What is your percentage on Ray? I've got him at my highest owned pitcher at 40%, which is where I've capped him.
Yeah, I think he's going to be my highest owned as well. So you see a bunch of righties in here, and that may look, tough for him, but he can strike out righties with the best of them. And like DeShields leading off, strikes out a ton. Forsythe's just not a very good hitter anymore. So you're kind of worried about Andrews to some extent, but he's got a 15% K rate going back to the start of last season. But Gallo's in there. He could strike out as Drupal Cabrera. He's around 20%. Kiner Falefa waves and misses, and then I don't know about this Patrick Wisdom guy, but I'm assuming he's not all that great, batting 8th. So yeah, I just think the strikeouts are going to be there. He might give up a couple runs, but 9,400, you can deal with a couple runs here as long as the strikeouts are there.
I have absolutely goosed Kenta Maeda here to 30 points, and I'm not getting him in any of my lineups.
Did you set a lineup cap for ownership?
What do you mean?
Did you?
Well, I've got him capped at 15% because I don't want him to run amok, but I'm not even.
I meant per lineup. That could have been it.
They've got some new setting in there. I forgot to change. So this is a good one. We'll take a pause for a second. So they have global exposure setting, and they've created this new thing here in Fantasy Cruncher that it'll calculate after each lineup is created. I don't want that because it treats each one doesn't treat them each individually. It says if I had Maeda at 40% and it used him on the first lineup, there's no way he'd be on the second line. It creates, and I don't like that because I haven't had time to play around with that. So I'm gonna just change that to overall.
You used group?
No, I just noticed that new setting the other day, so I'm trying to make it do whatever it used to do last year.
Yeah, so I think the default is each, so that would be what you just said.
Okay.
Right. That doesn't matter. I mean,
now I'm getting really weird shit. Okay, let's change that based on the number. Yeah, that's just weird. Huh. All right. Well, this is what happens when you do shows and you're trying to build your lineups up. I'll have active lineups in. It's not going to be the player pool I want though.
That's all right, as long as you got a shot.
But there we are. Hey, so maybe those will be that's when the good nights happen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so but back to this one. Loving Robbie Ray, and then as we mentioned, on the other side here, we've got Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn is adequate against righties. I guess the word is god-awful against lefties for the most part. Over his last 700 faced, he's got a 360 WOBA on nearly a 200 ISO, but there's not a lot of lefty pop in this lineup. I don't really want him, but I'm not doing cartwheels for anybody outside of probably Peralta, Escobar. Those are really the only two I like. From Arizona here. No,
I think there's actually some strikeout upside here for good old Lance. If you could stomach the top of this order, and Dyson's not a huge problem, but assuming you could keep him off base. But the bottom of this order, I think he can, if he just goes through this order a couple times and kind of gets out at 5, I think he could easily pay off that 7K price tag. So maybe not the best price for Lynn, but I think there's maybe some sneaky upside, if you want to say that, against I don't think that great of a Diamondbacks lineup.
It looks like I'm going to get him about 7%. I'll live with that. Last game of the night, we just got that Milwaukee lineup, as I mentioned. You've got Brandon Woodruff going against the Halos here. Someone had asked in chat, are you liking Woodruff? Are you getting to him? Just a smattering. I'd like him if he was 2,000 cheaper. 8,300, there's, I'd rather roll the dice with several other pitchers here on DK, particularly Colin McHugh. I guess you could say dropping to Darvish wouldn't be the end of the world for something like that. So it looks like I'm getting 2% here on Woodruff here. I'm getting, for comparison, I'm getting 5% Dan Straley. So weird lineups tonight for EMAC. Too bad I don't have head-to-heads out there. Otherwise, I'd encourage you guys to pick them up because this is going to be a scramble here. But from on the other side, you've got Pena tonight. So I'm not. Pena's a guy. If you pick your spots, you can get some good starts from him because he does have strikeout upside, but he allows a lot of power in his 500 or so career hitters he's faced. He's someone that makes me nervous. And if we look at this Brew Crew, they don't have the pitcher spot; they got the designated hitter spot. It's an extended lineup, so I don't like Pena tonight. But I'm good with the Brewers. Yelich, Braun, Shaw, Aguilar, and Moustakas are all fine. Hell, let's throw in Yasmani Grandal, who does better from the left side of the plate anyway. I'd like those guys. No interest at all for me in Pena. On the other side here, going against Woodruff, Bohr. We don't have Trout in the lineup, which congratulations on having Brian Goodwin be your number 5 hitter tonight, the journeyman. But I guess that could give some more interest in Woodruff. But I'll be playing them on the late slate. Main slate, I'm not really seeing it.
Yeah, I don't really love Woodruff or the Angels bats really, because even if you get to Woodruff, these guys are not very good hitters outside of, I think, Angelton is pretty solid, and then Bohr can hit righties. The rest of them pretty tough, even though Estella has been kind of on fire these last couple of days. But I think the thing I want to target most here is just Brewers lefties, especially against Pena. This is just a sick spot for Christian Yelich. So I think it's pretty obvious. I don't think the Brewers are going to go like super under the radar or anything, but yeah, I'm all over Moustakas and Shaw. Obviously, Yelich, Grandal, even Thames in the 7 spot. That's not really worrying me. So basically 1 through 8 here for the Brewers.
Yep, and I solved my Kenta Maeda issue. I'm just leaving 30 lineups and locking him in, building teams around him since we're almost at lock here.
Always way to get creative. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not my favorite, but it's creating some Heath Philmeyer. I'm going to have some more Lance Lynn in my life in these lineups just because of where his price point is. So that's probably why the little delicate balance there was not putting him in the rest of my
I did get to some Pena.
Okay.
And I think it's more of an ownership thing. He does have strikeout upside,
yeah,
but it's mostly against righties. So Alex's projections, or the ones on the site, I shouldn't say Alex's because they're not just Alex's, but he plays a big role in them, and I weigh those pretty good into my model. So did get a little bit of Pena, but nothing outrageous.
Hitting upload, yes, no red. So at least I have active lineups, Jake.
That's half the battle right there.
It's got the little things in life. Oh, goodness.
Hockey just locked.
Now you've got Fast Eddie Fears starting over on with Josh for the final regular season live before lock. So we've got a bit of a scramble on that tonight, but we'll have an hour or just short of an hour. Oh, nice. My parents are calling me. It's like everything's happening at once. Parents call me. I've got the allergies. My lineups aren't where I want them. Always say no when they ask you if you want to do extra work, Jake. That's what I've learned. Always say no. All right, so 3 minutes left for those of you that are out there. My apologies. We'll get a little bit under control here as this is the last night of NBA and things will be a lot calmer. The hockey kind of threw things off for us as well. So that is the one beauty, though, about getting your stuff set up in Cruncher. If you at least have your defaults correctly, you can quickly get live lineups. And you know what? That's, as you said, that's half the battle right there. So
in baseball, too, like as long as you have – I think you should be stacking, and double stacking probably. But at least like 1 or 2, 4, and 5 and 3-man stacks type of thing. You're always giving yourself a chance, even if it's not exactly what you wanted. So run crunches early in the day. If there's a problem with Cruncher, we've seen it happen before. At least you have something, and then you could always take the guys out later. So once the lineups for the early games start coming out, crunch a couple times. Find something as your backup just in case you need to re-upload.
Yep, absolutely. And it's a little different with baseball because, you have a ton of games most nights and they're not really staggered per se. So you like in basketball, a lot of times there's just the game in Charlotte is usually the only 7:00 game, and then the other teams start at 7:30 or 8 on a lot of those 7-game slates. So you can buy yourself times. If things are going sideways, just pick players, make one lineup, pick a bunch of players from the late game, put it in, take a breath, wait for lock to go, and then build lineups, because at least you're not drawing dead, as they say.
Right, exactly.
From that standpoint. So
we got dong picks.
Oh, I would have forgotten. Thank you.
All right, let's do it quick before lock.
All right, we'll let you go first.
I will take. I'll take Bryce Harper.
Damn you! I was gonna take him because he was the cover boy on my stock article, but I will counter that, and I will go with Christian Yelich tonight.
All right, cool. I love that pick, actually. So that probably would have been my next guy. So chalky picks by us.
Yeah, and that doesn't always happen. Normally I don't, but we're under the gun a little bit here. So.
Yeah, that's all good. I'm taking one of my highest exposed guys, and that is Harper.
Sir Legend, if you're listening, I'm gonna type this in chat. He's asking Nemo and Vogelsong or Vogelbach from Seattle, or Profar and Haniger. I'll take that first one. So he gets that because in those. Oh, Nemo probably started now, but in any event, I love Vogelbach today, just because of that weather and just because he's demonstrated some amazing power recently. At some point, they will find the holes in his swing, though, Jake, because that's how it works. But for the time being, that's what it is going to be there. I had see a few people putting questions about Fantasy Cruncher having issues. Jake had some issues earlier. A lot of times, if you just clear out, open a new browser, sometimes it I don't want to say, for lack of better things, it's remembering stuff in the browser or settings, and sometimes it'll gum up and it won't export, or it won't. It'll hang up and it won't actually put the file out, even though it says it has. Usually if you just open a new browser instance, not just a new tab, but a new instance, it'll clear out whatever issues you've had. So if you're like Jake and I, and you've had your computer on for 3 days and you've been crunching 5 different sports, there's some issues there in the shadows. But in any event, that was more of a scramble than I had thought, but good. It's a good slate. Tomorrow we've got a split slate, so we will have the DFS MLB strategy show. That will be Laffy and Josh. They will be going. I'm guessing they'll probably go about 9:15, 9:20 tomorrow. We do have a very robust 5-game early slate. It's starting at 12:35, and all the games are going off by 1 o'clock. So hopefully they do 5-game slates, but sometimes the sites like to get creative and chop the hell out of these things. And then the night slate, it'll be a leisurely 5-gamer as well. We have some interesting pitching choices. We've got, depending on how you feel about Shane Bieber, Walker Buehler and Michael Wacha, they are on the early slate, and those guys are all somewhat intriguing. You've got Dylan Bundy next in line to give up home runs to the Oakland Athletics. I have a feeling there'll be a lot of A's in my life again on Thursday. And then the night slate. Oh, this could be a fun one. There's no real standout pitchers. Jake, we've got Aaron Sanchez, Nady Eovaldi, Steven Matz, Kyle Wright, Joe Musgrove, Jose Quintana, Zach Godley, John Gray, and Jeff Samardzija. Oh, and undecided. I may have to choose undecided right now. Did any of those names strike fear into your heart?
They did not.
No. So that means the bats are most likely going to carry the day. The best part is you will have Adam doing the deep dive article. He is phenomenal with pitching. He will just have 10 to look at for that main slate. So he will dive into them. And I know he has a great deal of love for Sanchez, Steven Matz, and Zach Godley, and John Gray. So he's going to be able to tell us who is in the better spot there for their matchups, because they're going against some above average offenses. So this will kind of be interesting here. Any final thoughts before we get on out of here?
No, I don't know. I feel like I'm really spread out on my stacks tonight. So hoping I can just kind of hit the right combo. 150 max, like you just press enter, right? And you just profit. So that's what I hope happens tonight, right?
Yes. I can't wait to go back and look at chat and see who's making fun of me.
And what?
And see who's making fun of me for scrambling and mixing up names and all of that.
No, they're making fun of me, I think. Oh. Or they're making fun of dong picks. They don't like the a few guys didn't like the name for dong picks.
Well, for secondary picks, let's give them. We'll do a secondary pick.
No, I think they didn't like the Harper pick, but they were more concerned about the actual naming of the segment, dong pick. What's wrong with that?
It is what it is. It's just, I don't even think about it anymore. But yeah, you're probably right.
That's all good.
My second pick would be Mike Moustakas. I thought they were mad because we took MVP candidates.
Really mad about something, right? So
so there you go. Moustakas is your secondary.
I like it.
And then the game's already started, but Maikel Franco, batting 8th, no pressure on him whatsoever. He's hitting some home runs. He's hitting some extra base hits. Jake, who knew? All right, with that, we're going to get on out of here because it's 50 minutes. That is 50 minutes until NBA lock. You got Fast City Fear on the other channel with Josh Engelman. I'm going to want to check that out. My wife stamping her feet because I didn't come down for dinner and I didn't tell her there was an 8 o'clock lock tonight. So perhaps I'll be sleeping in the guest bedroom this evening with the TV on watching those West Coast games. So with that, gamers, good luck.